Yeah, it looks like there's 11 or 12 people.
Mhm.
House.
No, I'll go away.
All right, I'm just going to start the live streaming. Okay.
4.
Oops. John, I have the live streaming and the recording going, so we're good,
Okay.
technologically
Yeah.
speaking.
Technologically, you're speaking, you're about ready, huh?
Yep.
Okay, it's 7:29. We'll wait for the 7:30 because we used to have people sneak in at 7:30 exactly, so.
Fashionably late.
Well, he moved to Southbury.
How is he doing?
I don't know, I haven't heard from him.
I haven't either. I usually checks in. But
Yeah.
I know he sold his house finally, which was a big
Yeah.
deal.
Who are we talking about? Neely, cup of tea.
Our Curly.
Okay.
Oh.
Well, Alan just joined us, okay.
Well, not just. I've been here a couple minutes fixing myself a cup of tea.
Okay. Let's see who we got for regular members. We got Bruce and we got Linda, we got myself. So we got 3 regular members right now. And Mel's there someplace. I saw him.
Mel's here. He was the first one.
First one. So he's going to be a voting member tonight.
It's the chair.
And I guess since we only got 3, we could actually make Alan a voting member also tonight. So I'm going to call the meeting to order since it's 7:30 and we got now 5 people on the board here. First item on the agenda. Hope everybody's starting to recover from that storm. I know I'm finally squared away here. First item on our agenda is the minutes of our July 16th meeting. Obviously, our first meeting in August was a little bit different. We were all sitting around with a storm. Minutes of the July 16th meeting. Any corrections, additions, changes?
No, sir.
Motion to accept the minutes.
Did you make a motion, Mel?
Yes, to accept.
Second.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries.
I think I need 2 abstentions. If you look at the minutes, I believe Linda and Alan were absent.
Yes.
Yes, they were.
Okay,
Yes. Correct.
But we
Thank you.
still have 3, so it still carries.
Thank you, Gene.
Someone's got to keep us. Someone's got to keep us honest.
Yep. Yes.
Okay, hopefully my dog won't be too much problem here. First item on the agenda, we don't have any old business tonight, and we're gonna go to, the first item on the business is gonna be the Elbow Hill Road one. For Ward, I know you're listening here. What we'll do is we'll jigger our agenda and try to get you on after we're done with Elbow Hill, all right? But
Thank you.
so I saw Neil here. Is Neil, you going to talk
Don, I'm here.
19A Elbow Hill?
19.8 Elbow Hill. This is a referral, I believe, from zoning. It should be.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, they like to say, they like to hear our opinion once in a while. Sometimes we say, yay, we love it. Sometimes we say we don't like it, love it. Other times we say, do what you want to do, guys. So go ahead, Neil, do your
Well, let me
thing.
tell you, can I ask a question? I saw a letter from Tom Beecher on this application. Did that
It
get
did.
into the file for planning?
Yes, it did.
Do you want to start with that and then we'll go from there?
Tom had no objections to the change.
Yeah.
I'm gonna try to shut the door. I got a dog that's barking here. Hang on.
Hey, Ward, I see you there. Planning and zoning just isn't the way it used to be.
We're too old for this, Neil. We
That
can't keep
makes
up with the technology.
It's wild.
All right.
Wait for
Hey,
John.
hear a dog barking. At least I closed the door so it won't be as bad.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Neil. I'm sorry.
Okay, so Tom's letter, which I thought was helpful because he did a quick review of the area, which is of course why he doesn't make a recommendation one way or the other, but what he does advise you or advise both commissions in the letter that it is not that the application is not inconsistent with the land uses that surround the property. So what I have here, hopefully all of you are familiar with the property that's on the south side of Elbow Hill, just to the west of Route 202 Federal Road. And it's an almost 2-acre parcel. So on the east side of the property, we have the I-1 zone. We're directly across the street from a CGS zone. And we have a property that, again, considering that zoning was adopted, the current regulations just a little over a year ago, that when the new zoning came into place and the new zones were created, and this property was put into its current designation. At that time, the historical use of this property had been as a contractor's yard. And originally, nobody was concerned about that. It was a contractor's yard in the wrong zone because the developers of Oak Meadow were using it for their own equipment. So as long as it was in the same ownership as the developers of Oak Meadows, you're allowed during your construction to park your equipment on your own property. When Oak Meadows was substantially completed, this property was sold to my client, the current owner, who is a guy named Sullivan, and more particularly Cesar Suarez, who is a landscaper. And Cesar operates out of this yard. And quite honestly, when they bought the yard, they had no idea that it was still residentially zoned. They did what we might do. They looked around and said, well, here's an industrial and there's a commercial and this has always been a yard. So they didn't even think twice about it. Subsequently, Fran Lally, who was paying, I think he's in on this tonight. I saw his picture in the group. Fran cited Cesar for a zoning violation. And when Cesar came to see me, I said, there's no question that you can't do what has historically been done on this property without changing the zone.
Yep.
That's the easiest and most efficient, and actually, I think the most appropriate way of dealing with your cease and desist. So to the credit of the zoning commission, they're being patient to allow us to try to correct the cease and desist by getting a zone change. So that's why we filed this. And again, if you look at Tom's letter, which he talks about, it's all a question of where, as you're going up Elbow Hill, given the uses all around there, you want to draw the line. And that's always the case with zoning. Where do you draw the line? And we always try to look at a rational point. We want to do it based on what we've cited in our application as the rationale for making the requested zone change, to address the cease and desist, but more importantly, because in most cases, zone lines follow both the property lines in creating geometric figure configurations that are somewhat regularly shaped, and acknowledging historical use. If the subject property, if this property is rezoned, there'll be a block of geometrically regularly shaped properties on Elbow Hill Road that are lying west of 202 that will be, the zone line will be a relatively straight line that parallels 202.
Mhm.
This is consistent with how zoning is often done. And actually, Brookfield has a history of doing this. Years ago, they took Federal Road, and about 200 feet back from Federal Road on either side, they created the various industrial and commercial uses that exist today. So what we're asking to do here, we hope, is not something that is terribly offensive or terribly out of the ordinary. We're trying to just say that if you draw a regularly shaped zone from 202 up Elbow Hill, this property should be in the industrial zone of the I-1 as the adjoining property. We're resetting the line to acknowledge that it is a consistent zoning designation, and it reflects what this property is being used for. Now, after I've said all that, the technical stuff that we deal with,
Okay.
at the end of the day, what I'll ask commissions to do is to take a look at this property and say, would you build your house there? And the fact of the matter is, I don't think you would. I'm not sure anybody would build a house on this property because, quite honestly, everything around it is not really residential. Now, granted, we're drawing a line. So the next guy up Elbow Hill Road is going to say, I still have a house here. But of course, he gets the benefit of screening because when you have an intersection of two zones, we have screening requirements in the regulations. And quite honestly, he might want to make the same argument to you. I don't know the owner that's adjacent. He's been advised of the application, and I haven't heard from him directly. But I can't tell you that it would be unanticipated that he might say, well, yeah, if you're going to draw the line here where Sullivan's asking for it, then draw it one property up. And again, you'll go through the same analysis. But eventually, there has to be a boundary between the two zones. And the question is, where do we place it? So that's why we're here. That's the rationale for doing this. I mean, as you've said, John, in the beginning, you guys don't make the decision, but your input is important because, quite honestly, you got to look at the town plan of conservation development, and we do believe that we're consistent with that. All the concepts of regularly shaped and consistent zoning are in there, and the voice of this commission, which we hope will say we favor this. We certainly don't want you to disapprove of it because it requires an extra vote from zoning. It makes it a supermajority. But at the worst case, you might say what you said before. Yeah, we can't feel one way or the other about it, so we have no opinion, in which case you just leave the zoning commission to make its own decision. But I think that there's a real strong rationale to support this when you've taken a look at the neighborhood and the history. So having said that, I'm happy to answer any questions from the commission
Okay.
you might have.
Any commission members have a question for Neil? I think he did a pretty good job of explaining what's going on.
Yeah, this is Bruce McDonald. I think there's a story to be had given, a precedent for the ongoing usage, establishing a grandfather kind of issue. My question is, the person that just bought the property, what is his intention? Does he intend to continue use as it has been historically? Parking industrial, commercial vehicles, maybe some, landscape byproducts or cleanup products temporarily, blue stone, some Belgian blocks, or, or is there any ulterior motive? Does he intend to materially change the uses of the property from what it has historically been, a construction equipment yard? Is the intention to continue, albeit with a landscape tinge, as opposed to maybe a construction or, heavier equipment kind of model? What is his thought, leadership on this?
Yeah, clearly his only interest at this point is for his current business. That's his intention.
Trucks and his heavy equipment.
No, he's basically it's for his landscaping equipment. Now, some of it is backhoes, but he's not gonna become an excavating contractor. First of all, the yard's too small to do it, much more.
Not a big parcel. It's not
No,
not
not at all.
A tractor trailer repair depot or.
Not at all. No, this guy is and by the way, he seems to be a pretty good landscaper. People that I've dealt with who know him and for whom he works, he's got a very good reputation.
He probably had no clue what he was stepping into. He probably just presumed that I'm doing the same thing the other guy was, and I need a space for my equipment. And
Yeah. It quite honestly, I know that's exactly what happened. He just said he had no idea that there was a zoning issue.
which is understandable.
Any other comments from the commission? Okay, my personal take on it is, does make a lousy residential area for somebody to. So I have no objection to this change personally, but I'll let the rest of the commission decide. We'll take it to a vote if we're ready to do that.
Can I just make comment?
Go ahead.
Rather slow at getting into the unmute mode. It does create a precedent for any person or business that would want to purchase the property after the present owner. So, what my question would just be, what is it that we're looking at, in terms of like the zoning, the use, the land use? Would this mean that okay, so this gentleman is he's using it for the storage of his landscaping. Would it provide a precedent for the next user to use something more intensively that would perhaps invade, be not to the use or not to the, that the people in the area that live there would not perhaps like to have. It really isn't just this particular owner, and we I think everybody can agree if that's what he wants to use it for, that's what it's for presently. What I'm thinking about the bigger picture.
You're setting a precedent.
Yeah, what would that do for the future? So, I invite my colleagues, thoughts on that.
Neil, what is the size? I apologize for interrupting. Neil, what is the size of the property?
1.88 acres. And to answer Alan's question, you're absolutely correct. Once you change the zone, it's industrial 1, which is, of course, if you want to know what you can do there, just look at the piece next door. It's what our neighbor is industrial 1.
Right.
As I say, so that's what you can expect. But if you look at the table of permitted uses in the zoning regs, so in the industrial 1 zone, and most of these uses are by either site plan special permits. Very few are just allowed as of right. But essentially, what you could do in that zone, you could have institutional uses such as a daycare center. You could have public school, but it's way too small for schools. You could have stuff, various agricultural uses like a greenhouse. You could have a veterinarian's office. You could actually have a hotel or motel, but again, it's a pretty small site for that. You could have general retail there because if you look at what's in the neighborhood, that's what you can do. But all of this, again, is tempered by the fact that 1.8 acres. It's not a large site where some monstrous use that's going to be different from the rest of the neighborhood will happen. So if you go through the zoning uses, it's stuff that, it's dry cleaners, it's a parking garage. I'm not sure whether who build one there, but it's a funeral home. It's all of the stuff that you see
On
leading
Federal
up
Road.
to the site. Yeah.
Mm-mm, mm-mm.
Alan, I think the town could use a little more commercial space,
That's
to be
for sure.
honest. And this is probably a good spot for it. If you look across the street from this, across on Elbow Hill Road, there
Yeah.
used to be a house where that boatyard is sitting on the hill.
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
so this is not the first time that housing has changed to a commercial use
Mhm.
in that vicinity.
And if you look just north of the property, there's a business running out of what probably used to be a house at one
Yeah.
point, cottage.
Mhm.
A gluten-free market or whatever it is.
Any other comments from the commission? Anybody going to make a motion on this?
Motion to send a favorable rating to the zoning commission in favor of changing the zoning to allow the current permitted use, the current usage to continue.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Got a second from Mel. All those in favor?
I,
Did we get? How many more upset? I didn't hear. I called the vote.
I think everybody said aye.
Everybody said aye. Yep.
Okay, said it all at the same time. I didn't hear it. All right. I think we're done with you, Neil.
Thank you, and I do appreciate your consideration, and certainly appreciate the result. Thank you. A pleasure to see you all again.
Yeah, we haven't seen you in a while.
I tell you, I actually miss the fact that I don't rush to the town halls to try to get to these zoning meetings.
Oh.
Ward's on there. I'm not sure if he has that same feeling, but boy, it just seems so relaxed to finish dinner and come to a zoning meeting in my office in the house. Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're quite welcome. Have a good evening. I'd like to propose changing the agenda, moving to item number 6, informal discussion.
Second,
All those in favor?
aye.
Aye.
Okay. We have a request here from Ward Mazuka to come and talk to us about zoning application Z-2066. So Ward?
Yes,
You're on.
sure. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. Thanks for making the time for me tonight. Sorry I missed you 2 weeks ago when Eversource had other ideas for us. This is a proposal to amend the zoning regulations. As things turned out, we actually made a preliminary presentation to the Zoning Commission last week, and they held the meeting open in case the Planning Commission wanted to give further advice. I noted in your report that some commissioners seem to have questions about what the proposal was about. And secondly, there are 2 parts to the proposal, and I think the commission commented on one, but not the other. So I thought that just to make sure that the zoning commission had the full benefit of your thoughts, I would ask if I could appear again. So thank you for allowing me. The first, actually, I actually have a PowerPoint presentation that might
We have a
make
copy
this
of it.
all a little more understandable. So if I would be allowed to share my screen, I can,
I already made you a co-host, so you're welcome to share your screen.
thank you very much. Let's
Sure.
see if let's hope I don't screw this up. Let's Okay, so as I said, there's two parts to the amendment. The first part is in the CGN zone, what properties are eligible for multifamily. The current text is 5 acres and the proposal is 4 acres. And the second part of it is also with respect to the CGN zone, to increase the allowable density from 8 acres to 10 acres. And this is not throughout residential districts. This is only in the CGN zone.
You meant 8 units, right?
Pardon me?
You meant 8 units?
It's the current allowable number is 8 and the proposal is 10.
Okay.
Thank you. So in response to in regard to the first part of it, you might be asking, well, what are we really opening up here if we allow multifamily development in this zone for 4-acre parcels as opposed to 5-acre parcels? Well, we reviewed all the parcels in the district and we found that there are exactly 3 candidates, 2 of which will never really qualify. So these are the 3 parcels in the zone that are between 4 and 5 acres. The subject property that my client is interested in is the 1030 Federal Road, about 4.5 acres. It's the Newberry Inn Motel. The other 2 I'll show you in a moment. 1087, as you can see from the aerial photograph and the street photograph, is a perfectly developed modern building. It's an industrial condo, I believe. It's not going to be proposed as multifamily housing anytime soon. That's more of the street view. The next one, 1000 Federal Road, that's Imperial Electronic Assembly, fully developed, active business, very unlikely to be multifamily anytime soon. Better shot of the building from the road. So that leads us to 1030 Federal Road, which we see on the aerial photograph here, and which is depicted from the road here. So in terms of eligibility, we'd be opening the door to allow this property to apply for under the conventional multifamily regulations in town. Now, the building's about 30 years old. It was operated, as you probably know, by the Sproviero family as a family-run operation for a great many years, and not being part of any hotel chain and being in a relatively out-of-the-way location, it did okay, but it was never a thriving operation, despite their best efforts. And of course, for most of the time that they had it, the Route 7 bypass didn't exist, so there was much heavier traffic on Route 7 that they could draw from. They sold the property, and that owner also managed it as a family operation. But with the effect of the Route 7 bypass and the reduction of traffic and the trends in the hospitality industry toward chains, it became harder and harder to sustain this as a mom and pop operation. And it was taken back by the Sproviero family, and that is what brings us here today. What has happened to the hospitality industry generally is of relevance too, because what we're really talking about is how viable is this to continue as a hotel. If you do a Google search of hotels in Danbury, and they're not all in Danbury, but somewhere in surrounding towns, you come up with 44 hotels. which is a lot. If you do the same Google search for Stamford, you come up with 68, and Stamford and its surrounding towns are much denser in population than Danbury and its surrounding towns. So by comparison, I think it's fair to infer that there's a higher concentration of hotels in the Danbury area than there is in even Stamford. So that, combined with the movement to chains and the Route 7 bypass, calls into question the viability of this building for a hotel motel use. And what happens to properties like this, which are pressured in the marketplace, is that the only way they can compete is on price. And at that point, it tends to change the character of the clientele, and sometimes maintenance suffers, although that hasn't really happened so far. And so we're hoping that a new multifamily development complying with all Brookfield regulations would provide a more attractive complex in the CGN zone. But in order to do that, we would need the zoning commission to approve the eligibility for 8 parcels above 4 acres instead of parcels above 5 acres. So there are various passages in your 2015 Plan of Conservation and Development, which I'm sure you're all very familiar with, that suggest that there is continuing demand for multifamily housing, especially for elderly who want to downsize, and for young folks who tend not to stay in suburban towns like Brookfield these days, and who are otherwise drawn to larger cities. So that leads us to the density part, the request to increase the density here from 8 to 10 acres. And I recognize that other projects along Federal Road may not be as dense as that. The one notable exception being Barnbeck, which is 17.5 units per acre, but of course that's an affordable housing complex. But the beauty of the CGN zone in general, and this property in particular, is the proximity to the intersection with the Route 7 bypass, so that any increase in density on this property, and we're only talking a handful of units, would be directed primarily to the bypass and not toward Federal Road and other internal roads. The other aspect is that we'd like to make use of the existing building for apartments, and also we'd like to add some amenities that would serve to make the property even more upscale, like a pool, a play area, things of that sort in the back. And it becomes more cost effective to do that, frankly, with the extra few units that the increase in density would allow. I did want to also touch on what's happening in the hospitality industry generally. We talked about what's happening in this particular project and or this property and what's happening in Danbury, but obviously we have COVID-19, and this chart, I think, serves to indicate that the industry's been simply devastated by the lack of travel and is unlikely to recover until 2024 at the earliest. And it's just a dysfunctional industry at this point. So the prospect of this property returning to motel status anytime soon is really remote. that summarizes the proposal that we introduced to zoning already. We would, in light of this additional information, we were hoping that the commission might see fit to recommend in favor of both prongs of the application. The eligibility requirement dropped from 5 acres to 4, and the increase in density from 8 to 10. If there are any questions at all, I'd be delighted to address them.
I do have a question, sir. You mentioned about the traffic going, how's the traffic pattern going to be according to your thinking?
Well, it's here's the subject property, and here's the bypass. I would think that most people will commute south. I mean, some will commute to New Milford, and that's an easy run. But for the people commuting south, rather than going down through Federal Road, I think they would hop on here and travel south that way. So
Thanks, Super 7. I think the key is the change to the traffic pattern has already occurred, right? I mean, the event of the bypass has caused a lot of traffic to be removed from Federal Road.
My concern is the traffic going south is going to be on Federal Road. They're not going to, if they want to go down towards the Four Corners, if they want to go down to ShopRite, they're going to use Federal Road. They're not going to be using the bypass. And that's just my opinion.
Well, certainly that's true for somebody who has a destination in mind on Federal Road. But I think most people do their traveling to work. And I suspect that more of them will take the bypass. Of course, it might take a traffic engineer to give us some certainty in that regard, but we are about as close as you can get to that intersection.
You know, this is Alan. I would think that if you are going to go to Federal Road, just off of 7 and going towards the supermarkets, then, you know, I mean, I wouldn't travel from that particular point. I don't know whether I would travel down Federal Road to get there. I think it would be, you know, quick and easy. I mean, it would be, you know, the way I see it, you've got maybe, it's going to be like 10 units, right? Ward, that's the projected density. So let's say that everybody has 2 cars, whatever. The worst case is, you know, 20 cars, you know, and, you know, I just can't see that it's going to be a killer for extra traffic onto Federal Road. What I can think is that what we don't want is to have a business that is marginal as it is, go bankrupt and not pay any taxes, or, you know, it'd be better to have it as a, you know, housing, and especially if it's a little bit more upmarket housing, and have homeowners pay taxes. Ward, can you give us insight as to what their projected cost per unit is going to be? Something, you know, an estimate.
And some background as to what the owner anticipates the deal being. Is it going to be rental? Is it going to be condo ownership? You know, I think to Alan's point, the question is, would there be individual property owners?
Sure.
The same entity paying the tax bill.
Right. David Hawley and Luz Broviero are principals in the project, and I think they're both online with me here. I might like to kick that question to them. They would obviously be closer to that decision. So the question, guys, is will it be apartments or condos? And what can you tell us about pricing and the upscale nature of it?
Okay, Louis, you want to answer that?
Yeah, sure. So it would be apartments, and we haven't done a market study yet but we're thinking one and two bedroom apartments. And we're probably in the 2,000 plus range. Then depending on what amenities we could add, it would go up from there.
So would you guys be the owner landlords of the entire complex?
Yes.
Okay. And do you have a thought as to, have you done any projections as to the taxes that you would be paying to the town?
I guess that would ultimately depend on what was approved and allowed, and I mean, on a per unit basis, my guess would be somewhere in the, I don't know, 2,000 range. I can't tell you. I mean, it would be very difficult for me to guess on that.
Lou, do you know what the taxes are on the property currently, roughly?
The taxes now are in the $30,000 range.
Right. So a group of apartments would presumably generate far more tax than that.
Yes. I do need to clarify that we've been talking about how many units, and the current zone allows for 8 units per acre. What we're asking for is 10 units per acre. If we have about 4.5 acres, we would probably end up with close to 40 units there. Or less, depending on setbacks and,
Amenities and
configurations, but that would obviously be the maximum amount. But and then size, amenities, setbacks, other restrictions that would prevent us from maxing out the total. So you're looking at probably somewhere between 30, 40 units. I think that personally, I think when people were going to work, you're right, Ward, they're going to go north on 7. If they're going to New Milford, they're going to use Super 7. If they're commuting to Danbury or to White Plains or wherever they have to go to work. But certainly they would use Local 7 if they were going to the Four Corners to go to dinner, use any of the shops, and they were going to use the walking trail or anything else that you're hoping ultimately that Four Corners turns into, which is our Brookfield's downtown.
Mm-hmm. Right.
This is Bruce McDonald. The site plans seem to indicate that you own property on both sides of Federal Road. Do you anticipate development on both sides of Federal Road?
No, we only own property on one side of Federal Road.
Okay. So it seemed to straddle the mark seems to straddle Federal Road. I wasn't sure.
Sorry.
Okay, no worries. Thank you for clarifying that.
Thought I had a better picture of that.
Across the street is Roy Young's property, isn't that correct?
Complaint that was put up that looked like someone had handwritten to indicate property on both sides of the highway, but that's fine. Thank you.
Maybe this sketch here might show it better. That's the
Exactly.
subject property entirely on the west side, and yeah, just that square.
So how many total units are being built?
Well, the theoretical maximum could be around 40, but in light of the need to put in amenities, setbacks, driveways, improving access, and also the ultimate eventual review by zoning once again, because we have to go back for additional approval of the specific site plan. So I think Lou's estimate of, somewhere north of 30 and south of 40.
One comment I will make, guys, because my wife is in real estate. She recently had one house for rent on Ironworks Hill. Approximately in the price range these guys are talking about. She was inundated with applicants with that rental. There's a decided lack of rental properties in the Brookfield area. Just a
What
point.
kind of square footage, Lou, are you looking at per unit?
Let's see. So I would think that a 1-bedroom would be somewhere in the, well, there's restrictions based on the existing building, and then the additional ones that we would build would probably be larger. So I would say anywhere between 8 and 1,000 square feet for a 1-bedroom, and add another, 200 to 250 square feet for a 2-bedroom. They would have individual bathrooms in the existing building because we already have them. So they would be, the 2 bedrooms would have 2 full baths. There would be an additional bath in the common area, living room, kitchen, and then the new stuff would probably be, again, a little bit bigger, in the 12 to 1,400 square foot range for a 2-bedroom. And again, we'd like to add amenities. There's enough land there to put in a pool, a recreational area, probably a gathering room, maybe a small gym. And that's what we'd like to see. The demand is there. It's actually.
So how many units would be 2-bedroom? How many would be 1-bedroom?
We don't know yet.
Don't know yet.
Don't know yet.
My concern is about potential impact on the 2 bedrooms would eventually impact our schools. Right now, that's a little bit questionable.
We could talk about that. We're not against putting in smaller units. Actually, on a per square foot basis, you actually earn more on smaller units than you do on 2-bedroom units. So if the town was more, if you guys were more interested in seeing more 1-bedrooms than 2s, then that would actually be, it would be easier and make more sense from a financial standpoint.
Okay.
Well, certainly the taxes that you get on the larger, apartments are, that's more for the town. Was it the intent that the existing building was going to be, you've got two units that you're going to knock into 1 unit? That was the
Right. Two or 3 units would be combined.
Right. Okay. Okay. Mr. Chairman, I don't have any further questions.
Okay.
Anybody
else have any questions for these folks?
I also just want to make it clear that, along with the interior modifications, we would be redoing the entire outside, landscaping, any kind of plantings that would make it more attractive. We're really not interested in, we want it to be a very nice, high-end, attractive complex. We think that's probably the best thing to sell at this point also.
Any other comments from the commission? How's the commission feel, go back to zoning on this?
I'm in favor.
I'm sorry.
At this point, I'm inclined to support the proposal.
You're breaking up. Could you try it again?
This is Bruce McDonald. At this point, I'm inclined to support the proposal as long as it's restricted to the current lot in question and not a overall zoning change, but more of an exception.
Well, the other two, as the board pointed out, the other two lots are industrial at this point in time.
Right.
And chances are they would stay that way.
Right.
I'd be more inclined to be to support more single bedroom units than 2-bedroom units, to be honest with you.
John, what's your thought behind that?
I don't want more kids in the school. We just had to build a new school as it is, and we start getting the 2 bedrooms in. We already got a lot already down on Laurel Hill Road. We got more condos coming in. We don't really want to impact the schools anymore. I think that's one of our big budget items, as you well know.
Well, we would certainly take that into account when we develop a site plan to bring to zoning if the commission sees fit to approve these changes.
Remember at last meeting, we were very strongly against it. This whole change, then has the commission changed their mind on that? When I heard Bruce says it's all right for that one lot, but that'd be a spot zone, Bruce. So I don't know whether we want to do that.
Well,
I tend to be in favor with the chairman. Single use.
So do I hear a motion to go back to zoning with anything at this point in time? Okay. Ward, I think we got the, what we got from our commissioner right now is we're going to let zoning do its thing. And we appreciate you giving us insight into what's going on.
can I just ask a question? If I may just ask a question. In its report to zoning last time, the planning commission commented unfavorably on the density aspect, but the commission didn't really address the eligibility change from 5 acres to 4. And I'm wondering.
Okay, fine. I have no problem with that. Actually, it's 4.5. So it's.
Yeah.
Would the commission allow the change of the eligibility to 4?
I think that's a reasonable request.
I think that's a reasonable request also.
I agree.
So where we stand right now is commission looks favorably upon the request to go from 5 to 4 acres for development. However, I don't think we have a unanimous opinion of where to go as far as this particular project, as far as housing density.
Yeah, I think we need more information about the target density. If people, if the project proceeds and we can get more detailed information about, the distribution 1 versus 2 bedroom.
So this is one where we say, zoning, do your thing, I think. You've heard our comments on it.
It certainly is in line with the thought that we should provide more for, and not specifically affordable housing, but more rather than single family dwellings, multiple family.
Multi-family.
Yeah, so that's in line with our planning.
Gentlemen, we are forgetting that the enclave is coming. It's 120 units.
No, I haven't forgot that. That's the reason why I'm worried about. That's why I was pushing for single bedrooms, Mel.
Well, that didn't seem to come up, so that's one of the reasons why I'm looking for single one-bedroom units.
Yeah. Makes sense.
And then again, what about Happy Landings or Green Acres? That's another 100 units, all down Federal Road.
Yeah, I know.
So considering the schools, considering the traffics, if this project is approved, I'm in favor of single one-bedroom apartments.
Okay, you're with me on that one, huh, Mel?
I'm with you 100%.
Okay, we don't have a consensus though, so we got a mixed reaction. We'll let zoning do their thing. They've heard our opinions. And
Well, I very much appreciate the extra input you gave to us as well as to the zoning commission tonight, and appreciate your time and your attention to all the details of the project.
Ward, we appreciate you being patient with us.
Always a pleasure.
Okay, thanks again. Good.
Thank you.
Well done. Lou,
Thank
thank you for coming in.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'll take this off your screen now.
All right.
There we go.
A motion,
Motion to amend the agenda to go back to the previous schedule.
okay. I'm looking for the,
You have a second?
I need a second on going back to the agenda, but guys. Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Hearing none. All right. We're back to we're moving on to item number 5, correspondence. And we got 3 items on correspondence this meeting. Oh, yeah. First is the zoning commission meeting of July 9th, which was had a public hearing going on the new school, New Huckleberry Elementary School. It was one of their main items that night. Public hearing going on. And from what I can tell, there were no motions made at the end of the public hearing there. So I'm not sure whether the public hearing is still open or whether to continue it or not. So if their minutes do not indicate whether they made any motions on that. All I know is that no one was present to speak with questions of clarification. No one spoke in favor of or in opposition. It doesn't really tell me where they stand on it. They had informal discussion about something very interesting. I think people might be interested in is the Grazi Vineyards. They're talking about a restaurant or a pizza trailer or food truck at the Grazia. As he drinks his wine, hope it's the Grazia.
Mr. DeGrazia is dead.
I know.
He was a good guy.
The lobster roll, I did go, and the lobster rolls are fantastic.
As a guy who follows the wine trail occasionally on as a weekend event, we only go to vineyards that have basically food available. So this might be a very good thing to help that the winery grow. You know, that was informal discussion. They have not decided anything on it. Any other comments on the zoning minutes of July 9th? If not, I'll move on to the inland wetlands meetings. There's one on the 13th and one on the 27th. They are also discussing the new Huckleberry School, and they made a motion to continue their discussion of that. They have a lot of concerns about the wetlands.
It's mind-boggling, given how far they are into the process, that they hadn't previously taken into consideration the impact of wetlands on the egress and ingress to the facility. It's crazy.
Absolutely.
Okay, so that was the main item I had of on the July 13th meeting. Any other comments on the July 13th minutes? If not, I'll move on to the July 27th. They're still talking about the school. And they're continuing it still. They're going to talk some more. They're still, and they still have some concerns about the wetlands. So,
Well, what may happen is they may end up losing a sports field to facilitate ingress and egress to the new school. It's kind of crazy.
It is.
yeah, and they tabled an item on 401 Federal Road, which is the old cornfield property, where there's a request to modify the existing permit to change the to landscaping in the plants schedule. Let's see. They wanted to do an extension, but the commission does not have an extension, made a motion to deny the application without prejudice. So anyhow, stay tuned. Any other comments on the Inland Wetlands Commission? Minutes of 27th of July. Hearing none, we'll move on. The agenda, we got a letter here from an energy company called Bloom Energy. It's more or less an information for us rather than we have to take any action or comment on, because the actual site they're talking about is in Danbury near Stu Leonard's. Bloom Energy intends to put up a solid oxide fuel cell to provide 150 kilowatts of customer side, well, 150 kilowatts of power, so to speak. And they're letting us know that this is going on. It uses natural gas, and what they don't use on site will be part of the electric grid. So, any comments on Bloom Energy? If not, we'll move on. Oh, look at that. We're back at informal discussion. Any other items for informal discussion? Just I saw something on the Discovery Channel the other night, which was very interesting. They were talking about windmills. You know, those big things they got in California and they got out to sea that they want us to eventually go to eventually down the road. Seems there's a big maintenance problem with those things. The windmills don't really keep their output up consistently over time. What happens is, believe it or not, dust and sand and weather gets to the blades, the leading edge of the blade gets deteriorated, and all of a sudden they have a power drop because the characteristics of the blade are no longer kept. So stay tuned when they start coming back to us and saying they want windmills. It's quite expensive to go back out and repair those things. Something to think about when people say they want to get rid of fossil fuel.
That's because the individual blades are 120 feet long.
Yeah, and they're custom made.
Exactly. Like similar problem to nuclear power plants. Every windmill is a one-off knockoff.
Yep.
Standard design and build.
Any other topics for informal discussion?
I just want to see if everybody else got the Branson electronic pictures that that Greg sent around. Have you seen that?
No. Tell us about them.
No, it's just
That was just
the building's looking really nice. They just have it. It's got a fence around the property, but it looks like the building is really well and truly on its way. So
Good.
I'm not sure the timing for that, but yeah, it looks like they're making a lot of progress.
But what happened with the Old Hearth restaurant? Not much.
Well, I spoke to Pordello today, and he's waiting to get in also.
I mean, when did they shut down? Right after one of our holiday parties. And it's been
Right.
there ever since.
And Pancho and Gringos was sold, I heard.
Well,
They're gone, and Meeting House in Bethel, their last day is Saturday. So
Really?
if you enjoyed the Meeting House, they're shutting down Saturday evening.
yeah.
They're moving to South Carolina.
It's tough times for the restaurant businesses.
It is.
Piece of good news, I see today that the AMC Theater in Danbury is going to start reopening. Only 30% capacity, reserved seating, social distancing, but you can go to a movie again without sitting in the car.
Actually, tonight is the first night.
Yep.
And they're selling 15-cent. Yes, friends, 15-cent tickets. Showing the old masters like Ghostbusters and Jurassic Park, but they're 15-cent tickets tonight.
And just out of interest, their shares have gone from about $2 a share up to about $5. So
They were predicted to file bankruptcy.
yes,
Yeah,
So-
sure.
It remains to be seen. I mean, if Lord & Taylor's, the oldest department store in the U.S., can go out of business, anything is possible. So it remains to be seen how successful they are. But yeah, thank goodness they didn't go out.
All right, any other comments for informal discussion? No? Linda, your turn.
Albeit, motion to adjourn.
Did she get it? Did she?
I beat
I said it.
I
Motion to
I
adjourn.
beat you though.
I second.
Second,
You got a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
aye.
Thank you, folks. We'll see
Thank
you in
you all.
September.
All right.
Right.
Safe.
Take care all.
Safe. See you in 2 weeks.
Take care.